We got a junior high basketball coach.
The sanitation. Okay.
Caitlin,
We're using a lot of federal money.
freshman volleyball this year.
Yeah.
That,
It's called
Caitlin Hughes.
ESSER. And then we got COVID money too. But the COVID money has to be spent by the end of the year. So,
In a nick of time. Got to learn.
yeah, we're using half of those.
Yeah, should be a good job.
She did the volleyball.
Yeah.
Not too bad. Oh. Hanging in
Half of those.
there.
Yes, should be a good job.
She was volleyball.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Joanne Hildebrand. Here. Brian Reed. There, all right. We all stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have a motion to approve October 19th agenda. Jen Patrick.
Yes.
Renee Garrett.
Yes.
Joanne Hildebrand. Brian Reed.
Yes.
Scott Harris. Yes. Do we have a motion to approve September regular minutes? Renee Garrett.
Yes.
Joanne Hildebrand.
Yes.
Brian Reed.
Yes.
Scott Moore.
Yes.
Jen Patrick.
Yes.
And we need a motion to approve September financials and investments. Joanne Hildebrand.
Yes.
Brian Reed.
Yes.
Scott Moore.
Yes.
Jen Patrick. Yes. Renee Garrett.
Yes.
Do we have any visitors or letters? No? All right. Superintendent's report?
Okay, I had two things I wanted to give you updates on. First was a temporary change in licensure, 1-year license. The ODE is granting a one-time, 1-year temporary license for the 2020-21 school year to applicants who meet all other qualifications for licensure, but who have been unable to complete their required initial licensure examinations. So applications for the 1-year temporary license will be accepted by the Office of Educator Licensure until December 1st, 2020. That would be for anybody who was unable to take an exam, their praxis exam for their licensure. Get that. Then also on certification flexibility, pursuant to House Bill 164 of the 133rd General Assembly, a superintendent may employ or assign an educator to teach a subject area or grade level for which the person is not licensed, that is within 2 grade levels of the person's licensure grade band. Qualify, an educator must hold a professional or residential educator teacher license issued under section 331922 of Ohio Revised Code. Alternative licenses do not qualify and have at least 3 years of teaching experience. This flexibility is available only for the 2020-21 school year. Special education is carved out of this flexibility due to the requirements of federal law. Accordingly, an educator may not be employed or assigned as an intervention specialist or teach in a special education classroom without holding the appropriate licensure as an intervention specialist. Conversely, an individual holding a resident educator intervention specialist license or a professional intervention specialist license and have at least 3 years of teaching experience can serve as a teacher in a regular education classroom for the 2020-2021 school year. So I think both those are probably in response to schools statewide having difficulties in getting people licensed and finding licensed teachers during the time of COVID-19, particularly with people's inability to maybe complete praxis exams and other types of things that had normally would have been given in spring to college students. Those things, some of those things being canceled and such, that they're giving some flexibility to schools on that. So if I hear any more things, I would hope that at some point they may look at flexibility for sub-licensure, because from what I hear, not only locally but across the state, that substitute teachers are very hard to find right now, due to just the lack of people maybe that have done it in the past, but maybe have some concerns with COVID, not wanting to come into the classrooms, and then the other is just a general lack of people coming out with 4-year licenses that don't, that are not currently employed. So both of those things add to that, so Maybe
A
we'll-
lot of the subs, aren't they retired teachers, a lot of them,
several of them are.
they would be older and
You know, some of them decided that they didn't want to come back at this time, and I understand that, but schools here and across the state were continuing to, look at the sub issue. So, I know the we're getting close to the end of the first quarter, so after the fair break, getting close to the end of the first quarter, and I think that ends Thursday, right? Thursday is the last day of the quarter, so next Monday, this coming Monday, will be first day of the new quarter. We've sent out to our students who were online questionnaires whether they were considering coming back or not. Those that were on option 3, and we had several of those students that have indicated that they're returning to school. So we'll adjust as needed. But as far as things going here, we're continuing to plug along, following safety protocols and measures the best we can, and able to at this point continue to bring students in every day. So that's a very positive thing. And at the high school level, sports seasons are kind of wrapping up. Football had their second playoff game the other night, and they were beat. They had won their first playoff game, and that was like the first playoff win in school history. So congratulations to them. I think tomorrow night, volleyball might play.
they play the first time.
Talawanda, and then cross country had a meet, their district meet the other day, or maybe it was
They
the
came first place.
it was the league meet. I think both boys and girls finished first place in the division, and then so all of our sports teams are
And volleyball,
volleyball. They won, and then the boys, I think the football was second place, tied for second in the league. And then I didn't hear an update on tennis. So, but I know that
and girls soccer came in second. I thought they would come first, they did really well.
Yeah. So overall, it's been a good season. It's just been nice to be able to offer those opportunities when maybe back in the summer it looked a little more bleak. But it's been nice to being able to offer those and see kids compete, and give kudos to all those people who, including you as board members, who helped make that happen for our kids here. So
I was real impressed with the way they did it. I went to volleyball games, and I mean, everyone did have a mask on. They just really did care of how they ran it.
I think for the most part, people have been very positive. They followed rules and expectations, and haven't seen a lot of just blatant disregard for that. I mean, most people are very mindful of that. So I'd like to thank the community as well. That's all I have right now. Superintendent report.
All right. Do we have a motion to go into executive session for employment and compensation personnel?
Brian Drew.
Yeah.
Scott Moore.
Yes.
Jen Patrick.
Yes.
Matt Garrett.
Yes.
Joanne Clifford.
Yes.
Guess we'll move to resignation, retirements, leaves of absence, terminations. Do we have a motion? Krista Tucker, Alnor Middle School, 7th grade basketball coach resignation.
Second.
Scott Moore,
Yes.
Jen Patrick,
Yes.
Lynette Garrett,
Yes.
Joanne Hildebrand,
Yes.
Brian Riggs.
Yes.
All right, moving on to employment. Colleen Gaffney, employment for Western Mountain High School varsity swim coach.
Jen Patrick,
Yes.
Lynette Garrett,
Yes.
Joanne Hildebrand,
Yes.
Brian Riggs,
Yes.
Scott Moore.
Yes. And an employment for Krista Tucker, Mount Orb Elementary and Middle School 8th grade girls basketball.
Amersville.
Amersville.
So moved. Second.
Lynette Garrett,
Yes.
Joanne Hildebrand,
Yes.
Brian Riggs,
Yes.
Scott Moore,
Yes.
Jen Patrick.
All right, we have a motion to employ Sheila Saylor, Western Brown, full-time floating bus driver.
Joanne Hildebrand,
Yes.
Brian Riggs,
Yes.
Scott Moore,
Yes.
Jen Patrick,
Yes.
Lynette Garrett.
Do we have a motion to approve full-time pay for Jeanette Blackburn, fall volleyball coaching supplemental contract?
So moved.
Brian Riggs,
Yes.
Scott Moore,
Yes.
Jen Patrick,
Yes.
Lynette Garrett,
Yes.
Joanne Hildebrand.
And do we have a motion to employ Caitlin Huesman, 7th grade, Mount Orb Middle School basketball coach, girls basketball coach?
So moved. Second.
Scott Moore,
Yes.
Jen Patrick,
Yes.
Lynette Garrett,
Yes.
Joanne Hildebrand,
Yes.
Brian Riggs.
Yes.
All right, moving on to new business. Do we have a motion to approve the 5-year forecast?
So moved. Second.
Jen Patrick,
Yes.
Lynette Garrett,
Yes.
Joanne Hildebrand,
Yes.
Brian Riggs,
Yes.
Scott Moore.
Yes. Do we have a motion to approve OTES 2.0 BOE resolution for school year 22?
So moved. Second.
Lynette Garrett,
Yes.
Joanne Hildebrand,
Yes.
Brian Riggs,
Yes.
Scott Moore,
Yes.
Jen Patrick.
Do we have a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with PWSEO route time calculations?
So moved. Second.
Joanne Hildebrand,
Yes.
Brian Riggs,
Yes.
Scott Moore,
Yes.
Jen Patrick.
Yes.
Lynette Garrett.
And we have a motion to approve bid advertising a sale of excess assets.
So moved. Second.
Brian Riggs,
Yes.
Scott Moore,
Yes.
Jen Patrick,
Yes.
Lynette Garrett,
Yes.
Joanne Hildebrand.
Yes.
All right, next on the agenda for new business is a discussion of outside groups using our buildings. I think we had went to a non-use through November,
Into this month.
into this month.
So, we've had several groups, different youth groups that are interested in, using the buildings, for November on. Youth basketball, youth wrestling, several different groups like that. So the board would have a conversation as far as what our, thoughts on that are, what our expectations are. Wendell, do you know, as far as youth wrestling, what's youth wrestling's, what's their plan, their schedule, that kind of thing? Do you have any idea what their?
Yeah, basically our schedule's been delayed a little bit, obviously, with the way it is, but we can move forward if we were okay. Basically, we would, as quickly as we could, do some signups. Previous sign-up days were face-to-face in the building, which we could alter if need be. Fill out the application online, show up, that type of thing. We would basically, practice schedules are typically 2 days a week, maybe 3, was always depending on high school wrestling schedule, basketball schedule, so we kind of took what was left over. We use the high school wrestling room, so everything's monitored, disinfected, things like that. Obviously, with some protocols. I mean, we're prepared to discuss what protocols we could do, what would be asked of us and what have you. And we really don't start competing until usually January anyway. But again, it depends on, whom we're competing with. Typically, we've had just us and another team in the back gym, very limited numbers of people anyway, so, it was usually on a Saturday or Sunday anyway. If we had to move to the main gym, obviously that's on availability, but we've always set up for ourselves, cleaned up after ourselves, taken care of by ourselves, so we're ready to move forward. It's just a matter of having some guidance from the board on what we can and cannot do.
So typically, do you have like large meets, like where you bring multi-teams in at the youth level, like 10, 12 teams?
Well, in the past, we've always gone to tournaments,
Okay.
or even maybe host them, but we've altered our schedule drastically over the last couple of years because we firmly believe that, having kids sit in gyms for 14 hours a day on a Saturday or Sunday is unacceptable. And we moved to strictly just duels, us and another team, and we completely have gotten away from the tournament schedule. So for us, this year, our schedule would be really just us and one other program. That's the way we're setting it up.
I know one of the things that the OHSAA provided for fall, and I haven't heard of an update yet, so I assume we're going over using the OHSAA fall guidelines for the winter sports until we hear differently. But right now on crowd capacity is 15% of whatever the venue's capacity is, whether it's a gym, stadium, or whatever. It's 15% of that capacity. So if you have your back wrestling room and you don't have any bleachers in there, how are you going to set capacity and what's your?
In the practice room itself, or
Is that where you wrestle, or do you wrestle in one of the gyms?
we practice in the wrestling room,
Okay.
but we've always, unless we were having a tournament, we always had a tournament on the same weekend as the Hammer Am, but that's gone now. We haven't done that just because we've changed our velocity. But the last year and a half, it's really just been like us and Bethel or us and Goshen or somebody in the back gym.
Right. Okay.
So, those numbers obviously are limited because of the size of the bleachers. I think Tim and I talked, it's like 50 people in that back gym.
Okay.
But like I said, we can move into the main gym if it was available for us and help, but we don't really draw a whole lot of people, if you will, to those events.
I think there would have to be, if the board entertains the idea of allowing the youth events, that maybe there might be some kind of stipulations on crowd size and such that they follow the high school guidelines are for the youth guidelines.
And that's what we would do. Personally, our biggest issue would be this. And if you're familiar with that back wing back there, on practice nights, typically the parents set in the hallways down through there, just because there's nowhere for them to go. So, we would have to move in a direction that, maybe not allow that. It might have to be drop your kids off and leave.
Or sit in your car and.
Sit in your car and wait. That would be the best option at this point, but like I said, we haven't got that far. That's what, the other idea was maybe if that back gym is open, we could ask the parents to move into that. But yet again, that creates just taking up another space that,
Cleaning.
yeah, the custodians haven't cleaned it at that point, the basketball practices and things, so it's usually in the evenings. But
My only question would be on that, would be parents coming in and they wouldn't know if that area was available that night, or maybe it wasn't, you know what I'm saying, because who knows when they're gonna have practice, if it's gonna be late one night or early one night. That would be the only thing, that you wouldn't know till that day maybe, or maybe a few days prior.
We have our, you know, once we set our practice, we always set a designated time and never deviates from that time. I can assure you, at least from our perspective, that if, you know, if for us, if it was, you know, you're gonna have to drop your kid off and wait in the car, that's what we're going to do. Because if not, we can't have,
You wouldn't have room for them.
there's no room for them there.
Right, and I think that would be the same with basketball. If they were gonna have the youth basketball,
Right.
if they were gonna have practices back there, there wouldn't be enough room.
They practice in
necessarily.
those elementary gyms, right?
Yeah,
I wouldn't bet, I mean, I would assume they'd have to kind of have the same guidelines.
same guidelines, yeah.
Something like that they would have to wait. I mean, it's tough leaving a, you know, 8, 9, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old kid there, but, you know, mom, dad, bring them in, drop them off.
What grade levels, what grade levels is your youth start?
Ours is K through 6,
Okay.
but it's, I mean, my gosh, it's not, I mean, it's come in, romper room and leave. It's, so, but, you know, like I said, you know, I've got some ideas that I can run with the board or run, you know, to whoever on what we can do, but, you know, having some guidelines would help. And that's our biggest hangup would be where the parents could go. I think you'll run into that anywhere
And
you go,
everything, yeah.
whatever school it
I
might be.
think that would be our thing, like, you know, we want them to have the opportunity to do it however we can make it work. But within the guidelines and within the same framework that the high school kids are gonna have to do, because it's not fair to you guys to have different rules than what the high schools, you know, are limited to. So I think that would be the thing, and what we would ask is that, just for your sake, for wet wrestling and the youth basketball, provide us with, how are you gonna handle this? What's gonna be your plan, just so we know how it's being addressed and where the parents are going.
Yeah,
You know, how many are you gonna let into your events? Are you gonna give, you know, tickets to let certain people in to get your capacity, or just what your thoughts are and how you're gonna go about it? But I want the kids to have that opportunity. I want them to be able to play the regular leagues, whatever that might be for you guys, or for the basketball as well.
we do different than probably everybody, just because of our philosophy. But like I said, and it would be almost like your elementary gym. Where would parents go?
Yeah.
For us, it's in the hallway. I don't know about the elementaries or, you know, the middle schools, but
Well, and as I know, just from experience, you can ask the parents to stay their social distance, but that's not gonna happen.
No.
So I think that probably the only way to control that is, unfortunately, to have them wait in the car or something like that, just to try to keep that out of our situation.
Yeah, that'd be something we could, you know, your organization could provide us with what your plan is. Maybe take the OHSA guidelines and formulate a plan based around that.
you see that there's no guidelines per se right now on practicing, other than, you know, stay away, don't high five, don't drink from the same water bottle. I mean, the practicing piece, I think we would be fine on modeling what the OHSA is saying, but it's just the parent situation.
Yeah.
That's our.
Well, I know one thing as a district is we are very limiting through the school day on guests in the building. So I wouldn't think that would be anything
No,
different.
we aren't allowing
It
guests.
may be a situation where parents don't come to practices, they drop off, and then you have to have a coach or somebody helping to check them back out,
Mhm.
you know, in and out, and then practice. So,
Yeah, I mean, I could come up with a proposal, no problem.
is there any way you could set up a schedule that would be basically exclude Sundays, where if we wanted the buildings to be open Sundays with nobody in them for cleaning purposes, or for, you know, so we're not cleaning all weekend, or maybe you only have to do Saturdays, where you just do Saturdays and not have Sundays?
Personally, I can tell you this, my high school and junior high staff, we are the youth staff.
Yeah.
So Sundays for us is our only day off to be able to host any type of a wrestling, youth wrestling. I mean, this is the nature of our beat. So for us, a Sunday would be a better day for an event. We just don't, we run it ourselves. So we're already in gyms on Fridays and Saturdays anyway for during the week, so it's tough for us. And then just finding a gym time, if it was a Saturday, it's just as simple as looking at what's available, when the gyms are available to host something, and then who do we get to do it? So.
How many Sundays does it usually involve?
Oh my goodness, I think we had maybe 5 Sundays last year total, the whole December, we had like one, I think we had one, maybe 2 events in December before Christmas, but 3 to 5 at the most for us.
Yeah.
So that,
And those are run strictly at the high school.
yes.
So you might be talking different custodial staff that maybe wouldn't have to work on a Saturday because there would be no TV over here. They could flip flop and use the Sunday time slot to clean, possibly.
We'll definitely handle cleaning, but the disinfecting part, what needs to be done, because, we don't have the ability to do that. Mopping, picking up trash, cleaning bleachers, putting bleachers back, we do all that anyway.
The legalities of having you trying to disinfect is probably not available anyway.
I don't know what youth basketball normally does, don't they do Saturdays, Sundays? I don't know.
They said they did mostly Saturday.
Saturday until 20 sometimes.
But I know I'm meeting with Tim Friday to go over high school related, junior high related wrestling scenarios for preparation. But very limited because the state said, the state said, let's go, but they haven't given us the guidelines on how to do it yet. So.
Any other discussion there with outside groups?
I think if it's youth, anything youth, what's around youth involved, if it's a, they have a need, if we can accommodate, or,
Recognized like Western Brown youth programs, like youth wrestling, youth basketball.
yeah, or
What about like other?
Boy Scouts.
Okay.
Do you guys agree that Boy Scouts, because some kids don't like sports, they like other things, and I don't want to limit them on their access
It
to that.
involves mainly our Western Brown students.
Right.
What about like all-star team or traveling team that might have a couple Western Brown students but students from other schools? Would that be?
I don't think so at this point, because for example, our youth basketball is going to be limited on access for practice time anyway, so I don't know how we can allow other people to come in and take time slots away from our own groups, our own, just my opinion.
COVID to do contact tracing and stuff. might be
Yeah,
more
I just,
difficult.
there's other facilities now that they can, like there's that soccer facility, I think, that has some basketball, there's other places that they might be able to use. Just because we're down 2 gyms from the youth basketball, we're limited now just to basically the one, and I don't know if they'll get some of the middle school time possibly. The 2 gyms have basically been taken away from them.
I think the youth is 3rd through 6th grade.
Yeah.
Basketball, so maybe focus on that. And then,
What would you guys need from me as far as a proposal or a plan, just what I would do?
yeah, what would you do for, what are you, like you said specifically with the practices, parent,
Okay.
where I think setting up protocols where they could drop the kids off and the kids could be returned to them at the end of practice. Then with any kind of competitions that are in the gym. How are you going to limit your number of spectators? As far as having people wear masks, which is, that's
gonna be,
those types of things. Are you going to do concessions, and what's that look like, or whatever? And then just basically following, kind of replicating the OHSA guidelines on your level as far as competition and attendance go. How that looks like.
Is there any way we could decide tonight or agree on a practice thing and then revisit? Maybe we'll know more as far as competitions for next meeting. So if you said you were comfortable with maybe your parents waiting outside, you would work something out that way. That way,
Yeah, much like probably in youth basketball, I think that the key would be just having the green light to know that we can at least move forward with at least practicing.
yes.
And go from there. That would be, that way the registration piece and getting kids signed up and all that. Down a month from now, I know we're good till November 1st anyway, we can get into that. But, at some point that would buy you guys time to have those discussions maybe.
And for you to submit a plan for competition. And all that.
The only thing is, I would think that you would have to go ahead over the next few weeks and have some idea of what, especially for basketball, what the schedule might look like, who's going to be involved in it. So that's going to take some time to go ahead and plan that. And then if we just mix it, that's it. Done all that for nothing. But I don't think anybody's going to do that. My other thing is, we do need to put a piece in play that if we do have an outbreak of, 100 people or somebody, something crazy happen, that we have the opportunity to shut you down and say, we're going to have to close this for, a month or whatever it might take, to get things back to normal again, or if it ever goes back to normal.
I'm a little bothered, you give me the guidelines.
I think that's the only thing that we would have to have. I think my personal opinion is, give them practice time, go ahead and get them started, let them go ahead and plan on a regular season so that they can get everything in place. I don't want them to have to wait till the last minute. And then if something does happen between now and then, your guidelines and our guidelines are going to come together at some point.
So would there be a need for, like you said, that right now the facilities are off limits until November 1st, but your next board meeting is not going to be until right before, whatever. Everybody would have to have their protocols and their stuff into you guys before the 1st. Would I send them, or would you people have to send them to Reagan, or?
I
Tell
think
me.
that, my personal opinion is that we can go ahead and approve that we open the building up for practices in November. This is just my personal opinion, I'm not speaking for the board. You give your guidelines to Reagan, and and if they feel comfortable with, if those guidelines kind of match and feel comfortable with it, and it's going about what they're dealing with every day in the school building anyway, they know more about what's going on in the school building as far as regulations and stuff than we do. And they approve that, I would be fine with that. So that we can, I don't want to hold anybody up. I know that, kind of been held up anyway, so.
And then by the 1st, and then if things change the other way, so be it. That's
Just the way it goes.
the way it
But
goes.
if we can go ahead and get kids excited and get them motivated to do things, I think that's good. Activity is great for kids. I want them to see.
Now, are we at mid-November for practices for OHSA?
No, that's just what the Maryland Youth Basketball said they weren't going to start till mid-November.
That was Maryland
That's-
Youth basketball.
yeah,
Okay. So we could go November.
High school basketball's probably already started with training and conditioning and all of that
I
kind
don't
of
know how you can only approve practices and have kids sign up.
Right.
You don't even know if they're going to be able to.
I think we just go ahead and act like we're gonna have everything, unless something
What I'm
crazy.
saying is, if like you say, well, we might approve your plan to play, but we might not. how are they gonna have signups and tell people that, hey, we're gonna have this, but then we might not have it?
And commit to paying the fees.
Commit to paying fees and such if you're not saying that there's gonna be games. I don't,
Would it be as easy to set the
I would be,
approval not until the next board meeting?
Well,
We
I think
start
people
looking
need-
later.
We approve pending the submission of a plan.
Yeah.
Add a plan.
I would just say approve the, not say approve practice or game, just say approve the program upon submission of a plan and approval.
and I would say on maybe what OHSA guidelines.
Yeah.
Because they're going to set the guidelines for the high school.
Yeah,
And that's
and
probably
and
what we're
that's what
gonna
we're
go
gonna
by.
have them follow. And there might be a few little extras, just
Now,
like the hallway thing and all that, but,
and I do think that because all of our
Yeah.
high school sports, none of the parents sit around for those.
well, and this involves like some county schools and stuff, so everybody has to be able to have time to communicate all of this, get
I mean, I-
schedules set and everything.
I mean, I know, for example, a buddy of mine who's the head wrestling coach at CE, and told me the other day that their board shut all their women's board for their youth completely out for the year. They already made that call.
I
So,
don't want to do that.
I don't even.
Now,
Well-
if you don't have any, I mean, you would still go ahead and have practice and a youth program without competing.
me?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That's why, I would go,
Of course, I trust Wendell to do the right thing.
Right.
even in basketball.
An operational plan for practice and then one for the games, or the big matches.
And I can push my events in the late December before Christmas or even in January. I mean, I can. I don't know about the other programs.
Well, basketball has held off all of their games and stuff till January.
Yeah.
So they're postponing their things until.
I could
January.
easily, if that was a requirement by the board, and they said you can't compete till after January, I'll wait till January to schedule my meetings.
I don't necessarily think that's necessary, it just buys more time, but I don't feel like it's got things ready.
I can sign up and practice. through
They
December-
only play two
December,
games, yeah, they would play 2 games in December, the whole Christmas break, and then come back, so it's kind of like, there's no consistency there anyway, so. I don't know, I personally just want to see them be able to have the opportunity, and like I said, if something changes, if it gets worse, then we have to deal with that when it happens. But,
I like
how you worded it,
right?
I mean, you know what the protocol should be,
Yeah,
and you're
we'll
gonna
just
know.
have
what
them,
the
we'll
rules
have,
are.
any youth groups, submit a plan prior to start.
For the first practice or whatever it might be. And that would be the same for Boy Scout group, I guess, we have to drop off the kids and let them come in.
They have to
And
wear.
Even the younger ones, like kindergarten, they drop them off at school every day, they go to school without their parents, so, they're used to that, I mean, it's not like it's something new to them.
Most of it is masks, social distancing, washing hands periodically, different things like that, and then limiting attendance at certain things.
I just, where did the, and I'm not trying to defend them or help, I actually am trying to help them here. But if I was a youth basketball, they played their games in the elementaries,
Now, like the middle school,
they played in the middle school. Okay, I was gonna say, because there's no bleachers in those elementary games.
it's just the middle.
Okay. That helps. Helps me out.
Yes, yeah, quite a bit.
And Amersville would only be like 50.
Yeah, that back gym, oh, yeah.
No, Amersville just got the little bleachers on the one.
Yeah, they're a couple
The
dozen
only
of that.
thing, the only thing better about that is they are smaller, they don't have as many.
There's still 10 or 12 kids on both teams.
Well,
Well,
that's,
about 8, some of them.
that's where, like, part of their plan, they may have to look at, if they got multiple games, playing gyms between games, those types of things. That's why the plan needs to be submitted, so we can.
But that still, they have to go by OHSA guidelines, which means that if they pass the 50% attendance,
They actually
50%
have,
capacity, then they would have to show that in their plan.
Yeah, they have to show how they're gonna hold it to 15%, whether it's gonna be only a certain number of
One parent per kid or
tickets or
whatever.
one or two parents per kid or however it works out.
Yeah, but not
They
only middle
do.
school doesn't hold too many more, not a lot more. I don't know what their numbers are. I really don't know what the middle
Oh, it's a
school
lot
is.
more than.
They
Hammers
very
now.
rarely
Both
pull out
sides.
both
Yeah.
bleachers, but I think they could. Yeah,
they don't for the youth. They
Yeah.
never do for
I
the youth.
think that they.
But they
could.
could.
The other thing that Hammersville would have is that extra gym that they could have run a game here and run a game in that other gym and kind of, you know.
Unfortunately, there's only like 3 bleachers.
Three
Yeah.
seats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very limited. But, anyways, all good things to look at. So basically, we're gonna okay the opening up as long as youth groups submit a plan and it's okay. And for sporting events, that would follow OHSAA guidelines or attempt to follow the guidelines that are set out. And if new guidelines have not come out yet, I would say that they need to follow the current guidelines, the 15% on the venue attendance until something else new comes out from OHSAA.
What about parent?
Well, that's
Well,
what
that's
that,
part of the 15%.
yeah. Now,
In the hall, staying in the hallway.
as far as practices, I
Yeah, that's what I
don't,
mean.
I don't know how you could allow attendance at practices. And specifically, I'm thinking of like the elementary, if they practice where there's no bleachers, how you can fill that up and social distance. I think it'd be easier to say, you need to come up with a plan on practices, the drop off and release of kids, you know, that kind of thing.
Spectators.
Yeah.
So if there was a sign up, a face-to-face sign up, you know, and then, of course, we have to wait till after November 1st, which for us is no big deal. But if there was a face-to-face sign up, would you want some protocols that we would do on an in-person, in the building type sign up night or something like that? We'll do as much as we can
A
online.
whole huddle of them.
We
You do curbside like they did kindergarten registration?
We can set up any, I mean, it's whatever I'm allowed to do, I'll figure out a way to make it happen according to protocols.
How many kids do you have?
I'm sorry.
How many kids do you have?
I mean, we range anywhere between 35 to 50 kids. It just depends year by year.
They could use this room here and have sign up here and sign up over there, be 6 foot apart. And
Yeah.
when one person leaves, someone else comes in, signs up.
I can write it up. I just want to advertise and we can start signing up. I'll get the details to you before we do it.
All right, we get all that in motion.
Approve opening of the school. Yes, I would just-
All right, make a motion then. Here we go.
Make a motion.
Ready, Denny?
Approve the opening of the schools for the Western Brown Youth Sports and clubs, activities.
With pre-approved plan.
Yeah, say that one. You have a motion, right?
You just did.
I did. Second.
Scott Ford,
Yes.
Jim Patrick,
Yes.
Rebecca Garrett,
Yes.
Johnny Gilbreath.
Yes.
Brian Rhodes.
Yes.
All right. I guess now we're, school signs and sign improvements we've had in 2017.
Yeah, we had quotes back in 2017. This is the signs in particular are the Mallard Middle School sign and the Hamersville Elementary Middle School sign. That the digital parts are not currently working. And we had looked at the possibility of taking those out and putting in a fixed plexiglass with artwork on it, with a light behind it. That would make a really nice marquee. We could also potentially look at doing the one closest to the high school, because on the Mount Orb side, we now have that whole district signboard out there on West Main. So as far as the digital signs, I don't know that those digital signs are as used or needed as much in the past, because we have the one large sign. So we've gotten a quote from 3 companies on adding some kind of a plexiglass artwork facade with a light behind it. And if the board would want to move forward with that, we could go back and get those 3 companies to re-quote what that cost may be now in 2020. That was 2017. And, if we could take those quotes, and then the board could look at those quotes next month and decide if they want to accept one of those and move forward with that.
I'm all for getting new quotes, but do they still use those, the ones that are working? Like the high school one?
The high school one,
I think they use
I think they use, maybe there's some
That thing's
things on
working for
there.
a while.
But I know the middle school one doesn't work in Hamersville.
Yeah, middle school would have to work forever.
When I see the big one there, we're, Dollar General.
That would do.
And they're
I'm not sure about the high school one myself, but,
kind of hard to read too, because they're
they're
red.
not in
red.
good places. They're really not in good places or location. And I think it's fine to go ahead and get new bids on it and see what we can put in there, at least make it look a little better.
That motion?
Make a motion to get new bids for the signage for the 3. Do you feel like we need the 3?
We can get them quoted, we don't have to do them all.
That's true.
Do we have a second?
Jen Patrick,
Yes.
Renee Garrett.
Yeah.
Jody Gilbreath.
Yes.
Brian Graves,
Yes.
Scott Moore.
Yes. And we also had discussion on putting up cameras and security and door latches and that type of thing. Administration.
Yeah, that's the only building we have right now that, as far as that has people housed in it, that we're limited on our safety and security measures. And if the board is willing, we can approve to put cameras and security door locking system in there. With a lock strike system in an intercom, and a push button.
Do we have quotes on those? then?
Yeah, we have a quote from Absolute Cabling. They do our cameras at the other buildings, and so they're familiar with our system. 16-channel IP camera system, camera indoor, outdoor, monitor, labor. The total is $8,912. And for a four-door access control panel with lock power supply, mag lock for front doors, door release for the mag lock, intercom with 2 master stations, and card reader for the doors and labor, $10,152.
Did you say 4 doors or 2 doors?
This is four-door access control panel. So I don't know exactly which. I'm trying to think. There's 2,
6.
6. Well, some of them may just stay locked, but I can find out if that's an issue. The 4-door, they're going to do all the doors. Like some of them, not necessarily would you need you just keep the law.
Right.
You
I
could
just didn't know
limit
if you
this.
needed more than two.
Back to where we had three.
I would probably put 2 on, and then I'd put the one down there by the secretary at Eva's office down there. I'd put one on there. And I don't know, do you think that back door next to where your office is, or the other one? Over there? Maybe 3. We can quote that for 3. We can get 3, so 3 door.
Is there any discussion?
No.
Probably needed.
Is anybody interested in making a motion on any or charge or something
I'll make a motion.
for all of it?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second for the 10,152 and the cameras for 8912.
Lynette Garrett,
Yes.
Joanne Hildebrand, Brian Rhodes,
Yes.
Scott Moore,
Yes.
Jim Patrick.
Next meeting.
November 16th. And that should also be a hearing for Patricia. It kind of, January 1st retirement for Stella didn't work right. So we need to do Patricia in November, her hearing, hire her in December. And then, for the retiree hire, and then Stella's hearing would be in December.